sensibilities might be trampled by this cartoonish character's leather boots.
Hundreds of UN staff have added their names to an online petition complaining, and I quote, that a large-breasted white woman of impossible proportions, scantily clad in a shimmery, fly-bearing bodysuit with an American motif and knee-high boots is not an appropriate figurehead.
So what's been the reaction outside the UN?
I like what she stands for. I don't really appreciate what she's wearing.
Although Wonder Woman is a great character, I think that we can find someone better to represent women, someone who's not so hypersexualized.
The UN hoped this collaboration would be a PR coup, but there are many senior figures here who view it as a towering PR disaster. Nick Bryant, BBC News, New York.
That's it. Now on BBC One, it's time for the news where you are. Good night. Good evening. Scottish Government plans to set a minimum price for alcohol have been backed by the courts. The Court of Session in Edinburgh has ruled against a challenge to the legislation from the Scottish Whisky Association. It claimed the plans were a breach of European law. The ruling now paves the way for the Scottish Government to implement its policy. It's 4 years since it was passed in Holyrood, where ministers argued it would save lives and reduce crime. Stephen Godden was at the Court of Session.
In a country with a complicated, often troubled relationship with alcohol, £5 is enough to drink more in a week than doctors would recommend. Those who deal with the consequences of drinking believe minimum pricing is the best way to tackle it.
What minimum pricing targets is the cheapest, strongest alcohol, which is precisely the alcohol that's drunk by the people who end up in our hospitals and who end up dying from alcohol-related causes. It's a very, very targeted policy. So it's not about bottles of wine. It's about cheap ciders and it's about cheap supermarket vodkas.
A minimum price of 50p per unit would ensure a bottle of spirits costs at least £14, while cheap, strong cider could double in price. MSPs approved the policy in 2012, but a court challenge, led by the Scotch Whisky Association, stopped it in its tracks.
After 4 years of legal argument here at the Court of Session in Edinburgh and at the European Court of Justice, the ruling boiled down to one key question. Would increasing the tax on alcohol be as effective as minimum pricing when it comes to protecting people's health? Today, the panel of 3 judges ruled that it wouldn't and rejected the appeal.
Well, obviously we regret the judgment today. We still believe that minimum pricing is a barrier to trade and it's not necessarily a way of dealing with alcohol-related harm. However, we will now reflect on the judgment and do our own analysis of it before deciding on next steps.
Now that it's been tested twice in the courts, it's got that overwhelming backing of Parliament, we need to be able to move forward with this policy because it will save lives. The overwhelming evidence points us in that direction. So I would hope that this now does spell the end of the legal delay.
An appeal to the UK Supreme Court could be lodged within the next month, but the Scottish Government say today's judgment should be respected. Their aim to make minimum pricing a reality as quickly as possible. Stephen Godden, reporting Scotland, Edinburgh.
The man accused of murdering an Inverness-born policeman may have cooked and eaten parts of his body, a court has been told. The remains of 59-year-old Gordon Semple were found when investigators searched a South London flat. They discovered his DNA on cooking utensils in the kitchen belonging to Stefano Brizzi, who denies murder but admits dismembering and disposing of Mr. Semple's body. 2 people have been charged with human trafficking for the purposes of prostitution. The arrest took place in the Gorgie area of Edinburgh. A 40-year-old man and 32-year-old woman will appear at Edinburgh Sheriff Court next month. The charges follow a day of action by police to target trafficking. Police in Suffolk have released new CCTV footage of the missing Scots RAF man, Corrie McKeague. He vanished after a night out in Bury St Edmunds almost a month ago. This last confirmed sighting of the Dunfermline airman shows him in the town at 3:30 in the morning. The The 21-year-old man has been sentenced to 7.5 years in jail at the High Court in Glasgow for causing the death by dangerous driving of 57-year-old Marie Laurie from Glasgow. Stephen Benny had been driving at up to 80 miles an hour as he was being followed by police in the east end of Glasgow when he hit the taxi Mrs. Laurie had just got into. Aileen Clark reports.
This family have lost a mother, wife, a grandmother. For Marie Laurie was all of these things and more. They came to court hoping for a sentence which might begin to reflect their loss.
It's never enough compared to what we've lost, but we got enough for us to be happy today.
Mrs. Laurie was killed and her husband seriously injured when Stephen Benny crashed his car into the taxi they had just got into last November. Benny, 20 years old at the time, was being followed by police and was driving at high speed when he drove through a red light and then hit the taxi. The judge jailed him for 7.5 years. On sentencing, Lord Boyd said to Benny that Marie Laurie had been returning home with her husband from her son's wedding, one of the happiest days of her life, he said, and in an instant, that life was gone. He said it was difficult to imagine a more serious level of dangerous driving. You had no licence, he said, you weren't insured, you'd taken alcohol, you didn't stop when the police signalled to you to do so, and you reached 80 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. You'd even turned your headlights off, he said. It was the wedding of her son Martin that Mrs. Laurie was on her way home from. And although the two events are now intertwined, he says he can't dwell on Benny and his reckless actions now.
My mum is my thoughts and events. He's just a boy that had a bad experience and he's caused a death, and to be honest with you, he could be ruined for the rest of his life as well. So let's hope he takes it, and moves on, and let's hope he can manage to get over the fact that he's killed somebody. I've no hatred. It's not something that I want to be filled with anger. I don't want to ruin myself.
The first anniversary comes next month, a difficult time for the family.
Never forget those 2 days of my life. So you always remember your wedding day, it's the highlight of your life, times, and to lose your mum the next day in such tragic circumstances, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for the whole family, everybody's going to, everybody was there, they've seen the happiness, and they've seen the sadness.
Aileen Clark, reporting Scotland, Glasgow.
The operators of the Fort William aluminium smelter have confirmed they're in negotiations to sell the plant. The operation employs around 170 people and is one of the largest employers in the Lochaber area. There have been local fears that her owners Rio Tinto could lead to the closure of the factory. It's believed the discussions could lead to its being sold as a going concern. 2 teenagers have been charged with housebreaking and dangerous driving as part of a police crackdown against motorcycle theft and antisocial behaviour in Edinburgh. The 2 males, aged 17 and 18, were arrested yesterday and appeared at Edinburgh Sheriff Court today. The Commonwealth Games gold medalist Ross Murdoch has lost his top podium level of funding for the Tokyo Olympic Games in 2020. Instead, he drops to what's called podium potential after missing out on a place in the 100 metres Rio Olympic final. There are 4 Scots named in the elite podium category. They are the Olympic relay silver medalists Stephen Milne, Duncan Scott and Dan Wallace, along with the 3 times Olympian medalist Hannah Miley. Now let's get the weekend weather outlook now from Christopher.
Sally, thank you. Hello there, good evening to you. Well, it was a fairly settled day of weather across the country today, and tonight little in the weather change, largely dry, but there will be a few showers. At the moment, a line of them just edging in from the North Sea to affect eastern parts of the country. Perhaps a few spots of light rain threatening the West Isles, but a ridge of high pressure keeping most of the country dry and settled, and that's how we start things tomorrow morning. Could be a chilly start through the Central Highlands with the patchy frost and some mist and fog. Those showers still with us, and really it's a bit of an east-west split tomorrow. Eastern areas cloudier than areas further west where we'll see the lion's share of the sunshine. And that pattern repeated across the UK with a breeze coming in off the North Sea. It's always eastern parts that will be cloudier. Further west, some sunshine. A lovely day through Wales in towards the southwest, central southern England as well. But through East Anglia up towards the northeast, cloudy with a few showers. Dry and bright for Northern Ireland. For us here in Scotland, that east-west split continues. But bear in mind, with that easterly breeze, 1 or 2 of those showers could come over towards central parts of the country. Lanarkshire in towards Stirlingshire, Perthshire, certainly through parts of Tayside. Come further west though, likely to be dry, fine and bright. A beautiful afternoon across the northwest, especially so for Skye up towards parts of Sutherland, Caithness and indeed the Western Isles. 1 or 2 showers perhaps in towards Orkney and Shetland at times. Now the rest of the afternoon into the evening, still 1 or 2 showers around and perhaps a few more edging in towards the borders for a time. There will be some clear conditions as well, leading to a patchy frost and again some mist and fog patches. Sunday, little in the way of change. Low pressure, rain nearby but staying away. We're still under the influence of that ridge of high pressure, so again, reasonably dry and settled. Again, eastern areas more likely to see some cloud. The further west that you are, drier, brighter with some sunshine, and with the winds backing northeasterly, temperatures just edging down a notch or 2. Monday, we do again an east-west split. Eastern areas more likely to have some cloud. Further west, more likely to have some sunshine. Where we have the cloud, 1 or 2 showers at times too. That's the forecast for now.
Thanks very much, Chris. And that is Reporting Scotland. I think
tomorrow evening at around 6:30, but from everyone on the late team here in Glasgow and around the